Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. We're just talking about how the threats to gun ownership come from so many different directions, so many that it's hard to keep up with them, and some of them we don't even know are there. They're kind of quiet, they're kind of sneaky, but sometimes those are the ones that offer the biggest threats. The Operation Chokepoint from the Obama administration, where they're trying to cut off financial services to gun makers, to gun stores, went away supposedly, but it's actually back in some form or fashion. The assault is basically to make it difficult for those in the firearms business to do business. If you can't get financial services, if you can't process credit cards, you really can't do business. It's just one of those that may not be top of mind for a lot of gun owners, but if you have a gun store, if you're in the business, it's something you ought to be paying attention to. And there are people who are working on that, and sometimes working on things that I don't even understand. I think that's where we're going today. Talk about exposing my ignorance. Let me welcome in Rob McNealy, and Rob is with TUSC, Cryptocurrency, Decentralized. Rob, what the heck is this thing you're doing anyway?
Oh, Tom, I am so excited to be here. I'm like the biggest fanboy, so this is like giddy that I'm here today. So thank you for having me on. So Tusk, we call it Tusk like the elephant because elephants are a little mascot, okay. So it's just kind of a play on words. But Tusk is simply digital money, and we kind of liken it to like Bitcoin for guns. And Tusk was created as an open source software system for payments dedicated to solving the Operation Chokepoint problem that the gun industry has currently. Okay, so for those of us like me who think if it's not cash in your hand, it doesn't actually exist, give me the 30-second, if possible, update on why is Bitcoin and the rest of this stuff not a scam? How does it really exist? So it does really exist. So if you look at current money systems like your debit cards or your credit cards, that's all digital money too. It's just who basically runs it is the big difference. Right now with politicians, for instance, they just like to add more and more debt, right? And they can't help themselves but be greedy to the money supply. Right. But what happens is it's like a secret tax because in the long term, not only can it make the price of things go up, right, because the money's not worth as much, but what ends up happening is that over the long course of history, we've seen that all governments get too greedy and they basically make their fiat currencies worthless. Whereas cryptocurrencies, the rules are kind of not, they're controlled by the software that everybody can see, everybody can analyze, they can vet, and everybody knows what the rules are. So the big difference between cryptocurrencies now and the way, for instance, the dollar is not backed by anything either out there is that cryptocurrencies are fair. They're more fair than anything controlled by politicians. Okay, so it's not dollars, it's cryptocurrency. So say I'm a gun store, and I think, okay, this is interesting. What do I do? How does this work? Really, I always say, like, from the user experience, and by the way, cryptocurrency user experiences are a little more challenging now because it's very new technology and we're growing and evolving, just like the internet. Look at e-commerce 20 years ago versus e-commerce today, right? It's a much easier user experience. But if you want to think about like a transaction with cryptocurrency, it's very similar to doing a transaction with PayPal or Venmo on an app. Okay. And so from a user experience, it's not that much different than that. Okay, so I'm a gun store. Somebody walks in, wants to buy a gun, and they want to use cryptocurrency. What do I do with that? Well, it depends on which cryptocurrency. But right now, our focus. Say it's Tusk. Say it's Tusk. So right now, a retailer can set up a free Tusk account at Tusk.network, and all they need to do is with their wallet,
they tell the person who's, wants to pay with Tusk, this is our store account, our store wallet, and boom, 2.6 seconds later, the Tusk has transferred from the customers to the sellers' wallets. In fact, this week, though, which is going to make it even easier, is we're going to be rolling out payment gateways, plugins, and what that means is that for people that have these online retailers, their shopping cart software will have a plugin that they can just plug that in, and it makes it as simple as making a purchase with PayPal or Venmo or some other kind of third-party app. But unfortunately right now, the gun industry isn't allowed to use those third-party apps. That's part of the problem we're trying to solve with Tusk.
What's going on? What do you mean they can't use the third-party apps?
Well, if you look at right now, you mentioned at the beginning Operation Chokepoint, and it's supposed to be over, but Operation Chokepoint never really ended, at least the results of it. So a couple case in points, right? All third-party payment systems prohibit gun retailers or guns as being something you can use. So, for instance, if you're a gun retailer, you're not allowed to use PayPal. You're not allowed to use Venmo or Stripe or Cash App because of the terms of service put in by those different app manufacturers. And why that is because the specter or ghost of Operation Chokepoint never went away. And what happened is under Operation Chokepoint, for those that may not be super familiar, is that the government used bank examiners to put pressure on banks doing business with a whole set of quote-unquote distasteful industries. And now that might be things like pornography and gambling and all these things that conservatives don't like, right? But they lump guns in there too. And so what that means is that...
And I was going to say, in point of fact, what they do is they say to the bank, we would actually look on it unkindly if you continue to do business with people in the firearms industry. And what they're saying is, and we will send a bank examiner in here, and you may have a 6-month-long audit if we find that you're doing business with gun companies or gun stores. So the bank says, it's not worth it to us. I'm sorry, guys. I know you've been with us a long time, but we're going to cut off your account now. You got a 30-day notice. And that's exactly what was happening.
And they're not even giving 30-day notices now. And that's part of this whole deplatforming and debanking thing. And what we've seen is that even though the banks that are, like, for instance, allow gun stores and lawful gun retailers to use their services, they're charging up to 7% credit card transaction fees.
Oh, geez.
Which is insane. And then chargebacks are a big problem for, say, custom gun builders. I don't know if you've heard about this piece of the problem, is that because gun stores are considered high risk even when they get credit card processing or bank accounts, they have a big chargeback problem because, say, like someone wants to build a custom gun, and sometimes that could take a year or more, and depending on the backlog. Well, some people get impatient. And now someone's got like some crazy flamingo color left charge handle rifle that's custom built for them, and the person gets impatient, tries to do a chargeback. The gun store in that case doesn't get really much of an appeal process because they're considered a red flag industry. And it's a big problem for the custom gun builders too.
Well, and then you had the case where Gunsight, the Firearms Training Academy, gun safety academy, switched over to using Intuit's QuickBooks billing and all, and went through their services. And when QuickBooks figured out, oh, you mean you guys actually sell guns there? I'm sorry. And they took all their charges, and even when people had paid already, stopped them, sent the money back to the people who had purchased guns and classes and everything else, so that Gunsight didn't get the money went back to all their customers. And now, even though the products had been delivered and the services had been rendered, Gunsight had to go back to each of them and try to get their money back from them through another system. And that was all part of this cancel culture.
Correct. And so the big difference between Venmo and normal banking and things of that nature, and this is where that term decentralized comes in. And so in decentralized cryptocurrencies, and the difference is we can't shut you down if we wanted to. There's no functionality in the software that can say, I don't like this account over here that's registered on the blockchain. We're just going to shut them down. We don't have that functionality. There's no cancer culture involved here. And then on top of that, the big difference is, there's no chargebacks, for instance, when a retailer accepts Tusk. There's just not that functionality built into the software. And then the big thing, which I think is the most relevant for lots of these retailers out there, instead of paying 7% transaction fees, the current fee for Tusk transactions is only 0.5%. So we're cheaper pretty much than any credit card processor out there.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. And, in a business where margins are skinny in the first place, that can really add up.
So we say you get all the benefits of, getting all that kind of the economics make more sense than normal credit card processing, with the added advantage of having an insurance policy that you can still do business when the banks decide to pull the plug on you. And to me and a lot of our community, we just think that's a matter of time at this point.
I'll be darned. Well, Rob McNealy, thank you so much for explaining this to a guy who doesn't understand it, but now I know a lot more about it. People want to know more about it. Where should they go online?
Oh, thanks, Tom. They can check out tusk.network, and that's TUSC.network, TUSC.network.
Very good. Rob, thank you so much. I appreciate you explaining it to me and to everybody else.
All right, Tom. Thank you so much.
All right, you take care.